Okay, the sound is up. So happy Tuesday. Hopefully everyone is having a productive week. You notice the difference in my voice. Remember, I deal with those wonderful two letters, and sometimes that can be a side effect of just some busy times or whatever. It changes my voice, which was a strange, symptom as well to me when it first started happening. So what you hear is just that, the change in my voice as a result of my MS. So what I want to talk about today, couple of things. Well, not a couple of things. It's one thing I mainly want to talk about, and then I'll come to something else. One of the things I want to talk about is, quality time, and how quality time will look different for different families, because it all depends on the needs of their child. So let me introduce myself again. I am Tanika Mayhew Butler. I am a wife of 25 years. I am the mother of two. One is neurotypical, one is neurodivergent. One is 22 and one is 23. They are 14 months apart. And our son is the oldest, and Kendall is the youngest of the two. So Kendall is now 22. And Kendall has a diagnosis of autism, ADHD, and she also has an intellectual disability as well. So parenting on this journey has always been interesting, because we had to keep both perspectives in mind, no matter what we were doing or what we were planning. So backtracking to this whole thing of talking about quality time and how quality time looks different for different people. And so when you start to think about quality time, one of the things you want to think about is the same way you kind of schedule other things, you want to schedule some time. And that quality time is family quality time. I know people kind of move away from things, or, everybody defines quality time a particular way. But if you know your loved one that's on the spectrum, you may have to go into their world for that quality time. If they're really into gaming, you may need to look into, how to try to play a game with them, or reading a book. But the main thing is, when you are in that setting for the quality time, that you're giving them that time, because everybody needs some quality time. Now, one of the other things with the quality time I want to talk about is how you have to, sometimes you've got to create the experience for yourself. And what do I mean by that? I can remember we were planning a trip for the family, and we were thinking about going to Washington, D.C. So mind you, we live here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I wanted to go to D.C. This was before they opened up the Black History Museum and everything, but African American Museum. But we wanted to go to D.C. They were actually, just kind of breaking ground at that time. And so in looking at taking the trip, one of the things I wanted to do was actually drive and not fly. And there was a reason. That reason was because it allowed us to have that family time in the car, which allowed for, the experience and stories that we're able to share even now. So we created that moment by making sure we were in the car instead of flying, which could have been, it was a much quicker thing. We drove. And because we were in the car, we drove, we were able to, we planned for it as best we possibly could when it came to Kendall's sensory needs. But it was an experience that we created as a family time. And it's not the only time when, we have made sure we created our own experience when it came to family time together. That family time could mean where you have to even split the kids apart. One of the things from very early on was, for us, has been that Rich and Julian will go do their thing on Saturday, and Kendall and I will go do our thing on Saturday. So, but it was about that quality time together. So keep in mind, when you're thinking about quality time with your family, you've got to plan it and realize that, you got to take all things into consideration. And quality time means just that, just some time. A lot of times people think long amounts of time. That quality time, if it's just 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes. But during that 10 minutes, they have your undivided attention. And that's what it's all about. So as you're thinking about, time together, think about your weekends. I always feel like my weekends kind of going into the next week set the tone. So if things aren't in order going into the week, it kind of keeps that week kind of tumbling along the same way. So all of those things play a part. When I fall off a routine, it kind of impacts and hits everybody else. And so that impacts like that quality time or time we can have together, whether it's Kendall and I or even Rich and I. So keep in mind, it's still important that you focus on quality time and not just assume, because things are so hectic and, parenting a child with special needs, that you can't find that quality time. At one point for us, quality time was simply going on our porch once the kids went to sleep and just sitting out on our porch with each other. That was our quality time. That was what we had to do at that moment because that was all we were able to do. But we still made something happen. So keep in mind, you want to try to find that quality time because that quality time helps to feed you, and it also helps to reassure your child, that you can give them that time that's separate from everything else that you're doing. So keep that in mind as you're going throughout your week. Start trying to think of ways you can spend more quality time together, and don't think that quality time has to be some long stretch of time. It really could be a small amount of time. It's all about what you want to do with it. And it takes me to the second thing I just wanted to wrap up and say, that just to remind people, I made a post about it today, but just to let people know, there are things you're trying to figure out when it comes to our story. I actually, wrote a book in 2022 about our story, and it's our autism journey, and it's from diagnosis to Kendall was 18, and it really talks about all the highs and lows because we've had some highs and lows. It hasn't been this perfect journey. It's been a journey of some moments of sitting down at a table with attorneys with schools. I mean, it's just been interesting. It's been moments where they're in two different schools, so it's a lot. But you're looking to have those gaps filled in. I suggest and strongly recommend check out our book. It's available on Amazon. It's called A Crusade for Kendall, and it's our family story. So you're looking to kind of fill in the gaps. Maybe I've missed something, you haven't caught something. You can go back and watch some of the previous videos, or you can pick up a copy of our book. And in our book, it's our story from diagnosis to Kendall was 18 years old. And hopefully, if it's not something you think you need to read, that you'll order it for a friend. But if you have a friend who has a child that's just been diagnosed, I know a lot of times people will tell me, oh, I'm buying this for my friend. I've gotten that from a lot of people. But I suggest you actually read it as well, because then you'll have a deeper understanding of their journey. And that was really the purpose for the book. I wanted everyone to have an understanding of our journey, and especially in our community, because no one was talking about it. And it's still one of those things that people kind of talk about, but they really don't talk about. So the more we can get the conversations going, the better things will be. Keep in mind also, it's still, one of those things, make sure your wonderful babies have state IDs. The same way we make sure they have learner's permits, make sure you get them a state ID in the state that you live in. It's so important they have a state ID and not just a school ID. So hopefully everyone will have a great week. Hopefully something that I shared will get you thinking and make you do something a little differently this upcoming week. And I will see you all later in these Facebook streets.